They say betrayal cuts deepest from the hand you feed. Victoria had fed Harry for 4 years, paid his bills, bought his cars, built him a life. On his birthday, she flew home early from closing a $40 million deal just to surprise him with his favorite chocolate croissants. She walked into her bedroom and found him in bed with the housemaid. Harry saw Victoria standing in the doorway. He didn't apologize. He laughed. "You're never home anyway." Victoria didn't scream. She didn't cry. She dropped the croissants on the floor, walked out, and 3 days later she came back. But when she opened that door, Harry's smile disappeared, because standing behind Victoria was someone Harry had never seen before. Someone who would change everything. Before I show you what happened next, comment where you're watching from. I want to see how far this story reaches. Victoria Chen Sullivan was supposed to land in Singapore. That's what her calendar said. That's what her husband thought. But 3 hours ago, the Tokyo deal closed early. $40 million. Done. Her business partner told her to take the week off, so she booked the first flight home. She wanted to surprise Harry for his birthday. She even stopped at his favorite bakery, the one that made those overpriced chocolate croissants he always asked her to bring home. She bought 6. She wasn't cheap when it came to him. She never had been. The Uber pulled up to their house at 4:47 p.m. The house she'd bought in 2019. The house with her name on the deed. The house Harry loved to show off to his friends like he'd earned it. Victoria paid the driver. She grabbed her suitcase and the bakery bag. The front door was unlocked. That was the first sign. Harry never left the door unlocked. He was paranoid about security. Always talking about protecting the house. Her house. But she didn't think much of it. Maybe he ran out to get something. She stepped inside. The air conditioning was off. It was July. The house was warm. That was the second sign. Harry hated the heat. Victoria set her suitcase down by the stairs. She was still holding the bakery bag. She was smiling. She was thinking about how surprised he'd be. How happy. Then she heard it. Laughter from upstairs. From her bedroom. Victoria's smile didn't fade immediately. The human brain needs a second to process betrayal. It needs a moment to catch up to what the body already knows. She walked to the stairs. The laughter got louder. It wasn't just Harry's voice. Victoria climbed the stairs slowly. She wasn't rushing. She wasn't panicking. She was calculating. Her business instincts were kicking in. Gather data first, react second. The bedroom door was open. She reached the top of the stairs. She turned left. She saw them. Harry was on the bed. Her bed. The bed she'd paid for. The bed with the custom Italian sheets she'd ordered last Christmas. He wasn't alone. Maria Rodriguez, the housemaid Victoria had hired 8 months ago, was with him. Maria was wearing Victoria's silk robe. The red one. The one Victoria's mother had given her before she died. But that wasn't the worst part. Maria was wearing Victoria's mother's necklace, the diamond pendant. The one Victoria only wore on special occasions, the one she kept in the safe. The safe Harry knew the code to. Victoria stood in the doorway. She didn't move. She didn't speak. She just watched. Harry's hand was in Maria's hair. Maria was laughing. They were so focused on each other that they didn't notice Victoria standing there. 10 seconds passed. 20. Then Harry turned his head. He saw her. His face didn't go pale. He didn't scramble. He didn't even look guilty. He smiled. "Babe," he said, casual, like she'd just walked in on him watching TV. "You're home early." Victoria still didn't speak. Maria turned around. She saw Victoria. Her eyes went wide for a second. Then she smiled too. A slow, satisfied smile. She didn't take off the necklace. Harry sat up. He was shirtless. He stretched like he'd just woken up from a nap. "We weren't expecting you until Friday," he said. Victoria's hand was still holding the bakery bag, the chocolate croissants. His favorites. She looked down at the bag, then back at him. "It's your birthday," she said. Her voice was calm, flat, no emotion. Harry laughed. He actually laughed. "Yeah, well..." He gestured at Maria. "I gave myself a present." Maria giggled. She touched the necklace. "It's beautiful, by the way. Harry said I could borrow it." Victoria's jaw tightened, just for a second. Then it relaxed. That necklace belonged to my mother, Victoria said. Maria's smile faltered. Just a little. Harry shrugged. She's not using it anymore. The room went quiet. Victoria's phone buzzed in her pocket. She didn't check it. She knew who it was. Margaret Sterling, her lawyer. The one she'd been consulting with for 6 months. The one who'd been helping her prepare for this exact moment. Victoria had suspected Harry was cheating for months. Late-night gym sessions, new cologne, the way he stopped asking about her day. She'd hired a private investigator in January. The PI confirmed it in February. Harry had been seeing Maria since December. Victoria didn't confront him. She planned. She contacted Margaret. They reviewed the prenuptial agreement Harry had signed, the one he clearly never read, the one that said infidelity voided all spousal claims. Margaret started building the case, bank records, property deeds, evidence. Victoria wasn't going to scream at Harry. She was going to erase him, but she needed proof. She needed him to show his hand. So she waited. She played the role of the oblivious wife. She went on business trips. She worked long hours. She gave him space. She gave him rope. And now, standing in her bedroom doorway, watching her husband with her employee, she realized he'd finally hanged himself. Victoria looked at Harry, then at Maria, then back at Harry. "I brought you croissants," she said. She dropped the bakery bag on the floor. Then she turned around and walked away. Harry called after her, "Babe, come on, don't be dramatic." Victoria didn't respond. She walked down the stairs. She grabbed her suitcase. She walked out the front door. She got in her car. She drove to the Four Seasons. She checked into a suite. Then she called Margaret. "I have what we need," Victoria said. Margaret's voice was calm, professional. "Are you ready to proceed?" "Yes." "I'll file tomorrow morning." Victoria hung up. She sat on the edge of the hotel bed. She looked at her hands. They weren't shaking. She wasn't crying. She was done crying. Harry didn't come after her that night. He didn't call. He didn't text. Victoria knew why. He thought she'd come crawling back. He thought she needed him. He thought she'd forgive him because she always forgave him. He was wrong. The next morning, Victoria woke up at 6 a.m. She showered. She put on her favorite suit. The black one. The one that made her look like she could buy and sell entire companies. Because she could. She went to the office. She had meetings, conference calls, a presentation to the board. She was closing a deal in Frankfurt. Life went on. At 2 p.m., her assistant buzzed her. "Mrs. Chen Sullivan, there's a Margaret Sterling here to see you." "Send her in." Margaret walked into Victoria's office. She was wearing a grey suit. She was carrying a leather briefcase. She looked like the kind of lawyer who'd ruin your life and then go to brunch. "Everything's ready," Margaret said. She opened the briefcase. She pulled out a thick folder. "Divorce petition, asset inventory, prenuptial enforcement order. I've scheduled a meeting with Harry for Friday." "Friday?" Victoria raised an eyebrow. "I thought you'd want to give him a few days. Let him get comfortable." Victoria smiled. It was a cold smile, the kind of smile a CEO gives before firing an entire department. "Good." Margaret handed her the folder. Victoria flipped through it. Bank statements, property deeds, the prenuptial agreement with Harry's signature at the bottom. "He signed this without reading it," Victoria said. "Most people do." "He thought it was romantic. That I trusted him." "Did you?" "No." Victoria closed the folder. "But I wanted to." Margaret sat down. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry." "Don't be." Victoria leaned back in her chair. "I'm not." That wasn't entirely true. Victoria wasn't sorry Harry cheated. She was sorry she'd wasted 4 years on him. 4 years of playing the role of the supportive wife. 4 years of downplaying her success so he wouldn't feel small. 4 years of pretending she didn't notice how much he resented her. Harry Sullivan had been unemployed when they met. He was between opportunities. That's what he called it. Victoria thought he was charming, funny, good-looking. She thought he'd find his footing. He never did. Instead, he found her bank account. He moved into her apartment after 3 months. He drove her car. He used her credit cards. He told his friends he was managing investments. He wasn't. He was managing his Xbox stats. Victoria didn't mind at first. She made enough money for both of them. She thought love meant supporting your partner. She thought he'd eventually contribute. He never did. Instead, he started resenting her for working too much, for being too successful, for making him feel like a failure. So he found someone who made him feel like a winner, a housemaid who didn't ask questions, a housemaid who thought a man who lived in a mansion was rich, a housemaid who didn't realize the mansion wasn't his. Victoria spent the next 3 days working. She didn't go home, she stayed at the Four Seasons. She ordered room service, she went to the gym, she slept well. Harry finally texted on Wednesday, "We need to talk." Victoria didn't respond. He texted again an hour later, "You're being childish." Victoria deleted the message. He called that night. She didn't answer. He left a voicemail. "Look, I'm sorry you're upset, but you're overreacting. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. If you'd just come home, we could work this out. I love you, babe. Come home." Victoria listened to the voicemail once, then she deleted it. On Thursday, Harry called 6 times. Victoria didn't answer. He sent a long text. "I don't understand why you're doing this. I said I was sorry. What more do you want? You're always working. You're never home. I was lonely. You can't blame me for that. If you'd been here more, this wouldn't have happened. But I'm willing to forgive you. Just come home." Victoria read the text twice, then she blocked his number. She called Margaret. "Move the meeting to tomorrow morning." "Tomorrow?" Margaret sounded surprised. "I thought you wanted Friday." "I'm done waiting." "Understood. I'll inform him." Victoria hung up. She poured herself a glass of wine. She stood by the window of her hotel suite. The city lights stretched out below her. She'd built her company from nothing. She'd worked 18-hour days. She'd sacrificed relationships, sleep, sanity. And Harry thought he deserved half. Harry thought 4 years of sitting on her couch entitled him to her life's work. He was about to learn otherwise. Friday morning, 10 a.m. Victoria walked into Margaret's office. It was on the 40th floor of a downtown high-rise. All glass and steel, the kind of office that said, "I will destroy you and look good doing it." Margaret was waiting in the conference room. "He just arrived," she said. "Is he alone?" "Yes. I advised him to bring a lawyer. He said he didn't need one." Victoria almost smiled. Almost. Of course he did. Margaret opened the door to the conference room. Harry was sitting at the table. He looked comfortable. Confident. He was wearing a polo shirt and jeans. Casual, like this was a friendly chat. He saw Victoria and stood up. "Babe," he said. Big smile, open arms. "I'm so glad you're here. We can finally talk about this." Victoria didn't hug him. She walked to the opposite side of the table and sat down. Margaret sat next to her. She placed a folder on the table. Harry's smile faded. Just a little. "Why are we in a lawyer's office?" he asked. Victoria didn't answer. She looked at Margaret. Margaret opened the folder. She slid a document across the table. "Mr. Sullivan, I'm Margaret Sterling. I represent Mrs. Chen Sullivan in this matter." Harry picked up the document. He skimmed the first page. His face went pale. "Divorce?" He looked at Victoria. "You're divorcing me?" Victoria's expression didn't change. "Yes." "Over one mistake?" "It wasn't one mistake." Harry's jaw tightened. "How long have you known?" "Long enough." He slammed the paper on the table. "This is insane. You can't just—" "She can," Margaret interrupted, "and she is." Harry glared at Margaret, then back at Victoria. "Fine. You want a divorce? Fine. But I'm not signing anything until we talk about the settlement." "There is no settlement," Victoria said. Harry laughed. It was a bitter, angry laugh. "There's always a settlement. We've been married for 4 years. I'm entitled to half." Margaret slid another document across the table. "You're entitled to nothing." Harry snatched the paper. He read the title. "Prenuptial agreement?" "The one you signed," Margaret said. "Page 7, paragraph 3, infidelity clause." Harry flipped to page 7. His eyes scanned the text. His face went from pale to red. "This says I get nothing if I cheat." "Correct. That's not fair." "You signed it," Victoria said. Her voice was ice. "You agreed to the terms." "I didn't read it." "That's not my problem." Harry stood up. He was shaking. "You can't do this. I'll fight you. You'll lose," Margaret said. She slid a third document across the table. "We have evidence, text messages, Credit card statements, testimony from a private investigator, photos. Harry's hands balled into fists. You had me followed. I had my assets protected. I'm not an asset. I'm your husband. Victoria stood up. She looked him in the eye. For the first time in 4 years, she didn't look away. Sign the papers, Harry. No. Sign the papers, or I'll make this very public. I'll file a lawsuit for theft, for fraud, for unauthorized use of my property. Maria stole my mother's necklace. You gave it to her. That's a felony. Harry's eyes went wide. She didn't steal it. I gave it to her. You don't own it. I do. Which means you stole it and gave it to your mistress. She's not my mistress. What is she then? Harry didn't answer. Victoria leaned forward. Sign the papers. I'll give you $200,000. You walk away. You don't contest. You don't talk to the press. You disappear. Harry stared at her. 200,000. That's nothing. It's more than you came into this marriage with. I gave you 4 years. You gave me nothing. The room went silent. Harry's breathing was heavy. His face was red. He looked like he wanted to flip the table. But he didn't. He grabbed a pen. He clicked it, hard. Then he threw it across the room. I'm not signing shit. He stormed out of the conference room. The door slammed behind him. Victoria sat back down. Margaret looked at her. He'll come back. No, he won't. Then we proceed with litigation. Victoria nodded. Do it. Margaret picked up the documents. This will get ugly. Good. Victoria stood up. She smoothed her skirt. She looked out the window at the city below. Harry thought he held the power. He thought he could reject her offer and come out on top. He thought wrong because Victoria wasn't offering mercy. She was offering him a way out. And he'd just slammed the door. 3 days passed. Harry didn't call. He didn't text. He thought he'd won. Victoria knew better. On Monday morning, Margaret filed the divorce petition with the county clerk. She filed the asset seizure motion. She filed the emergency restraining order, all before 9 a.m. By 10 a.m., Harry's credit card stopped working. By noon, his bank account was frozen. By 2 p.m., he got the notice. Victoria was at her office when Margaret called. He knows, Margaret said, and? He's calling me every 10 minutes. He wants to negotiate. Tell him no. Are you sure? He's willing to sign now. Victoria leaned back in her chair. The offer expired when he walked out. Understood. Victoria hung up. She had work to do, a conference call with the Tokyo office, a meeting with the CFO. Life went on. Harry's life, however, was about to stop. Wednesday, 3 p.m. Victoria pulled up to her house. Her house, the one Harry had been living in like he owned it. She wasn't alone. Margaret was in the passenger seat. Behind them, 2 sheriff's deputies sat in a patrol car. Behind them, a locksmith's van. This wasn't a visit. This was an eviction. Victoria stepped out of the car. She was wearing a black dress. Simple, elegant. The kind of dress you wear when you're about to ruin someone's life and still look professional. Margaret got out next. She was carrying her briefcase. The deputies followed. Victoria walked to the front door. She used her key. The door opened. Inside, the TV was on. ESPN. Harry loved ESPN. He watched it like it was his job. Because he didn't have a job. Harry was on the couch. He was eating cereal. Her cereal. From her kitchen, Maria was sitting next to him. She was wearing Victoria's yoga pants. They both looked up when Victoria walked in. Harry's face went from confused to angry in half a second. What are you doing here? He said. Victoria didn't answer. She stepped aside. Margaret walked in. Then the 2 deputies. The room went silent. Harry's cereal bowl slipped from his hand. It hit the coffee table. Milk spilled everywhere. He tried to stand up. His legs wouldn't work. Maria grabbed his arm. Harry, what's happening? Harry's mouth opened. No sound came out. Margaret stepped forward. She was calm, professional. She looked at Harry like he was a stain on the carpet. Mr. Sullivan, she said, I'm Margaret Sterling. We met last week. Harry finally found his voice. What? What are you doing here? I'm here on behalf of Mrs. Victoria Chen Sullivan. Margaret gestured to Victoria. This is her residence. I live here. Harry's voice cracked. You resided here, past tense. Margaret opened her briefcase. She pulled out a document. She handed it to one of the deputies. The deputy walked over and handed it to Harry. Harry's hands were shaking. He looked at the document. Notice of eviction. His voice was barely a whisper. Effective immediately, Margaret said. You can't do this. I can, and I have. Harry looked at Victoria. She was standing by the door. Her arms were crossed. Her face was blank. Babe, Harry said. His voice was desperate now. Babe, come on. We can work this out. I'll sign the papers. I'll take the 200,000. Just don't do this. Victoria finally spoke. Her voice was quiet, measured, every word a nail in a coffin. The offer expired. What? You rejected my offer. Now there is no offer. Harry's face went red. That's not fair. You're right. Victoria took a step forward. Fair would have been you getting a job. Fair would have been you respecting our marriage. Fair would have been you not fucking the maid in my bed. Maria flinched. Harry's jaw clenched. I made a mistake. No, Victoria's voice was ice. You made a choice, and now you live with it. She looked at Margaret. Margaret nodded. She pulled out another document. This property was purchased on June 14, 2019, solely under the name Victoria Chen Sullivan. Mr. Sullivan, you were listed as a resident, not an owner. Per the prenuptial agreement signed on August 3, 2020, you waived all claims to property acquired before or during the marriage in the event of infidelity. Harry was shaking his head. No, I didn't waive anything. Margaret flipped to page 9 of the prenup. She held it up. Harry's signature was at the bottom. Your signature says otherwise. Harry looked like he'd been slapped. Maria stood up. Wait, what about me? Margaret turned to her. Ms. Rodriguez. I work here. I have rights. Margaret pulled out a third document. She handed it to Maria. Termination letter, effective immediately. Maria's eyes went wide. For what? Theft of employer property. I didn't steal anything. Victoria walked over to Maria. She stopped 2 feet away. She looked at Maria's neck. Maria was still wearing the necklace. Victoria's mother's necklace. Victoria pointed at it. Take it off. Maria's hand went to her throat. Harry gave this to me. Harry doesn't own it. I do. Victoria's voice was sharp. Take it off. Maria looked at Harry. Harry was staring at the floor. Harry? Maria's voice was shaking. Harry didn't answer. Maria's face crumpled. She unclasped the necklace. She handed it to Victoria. Victoria took it. She looked at it for a moment. Then she put it in her purse. She looked back at Maria. You have 30 minutes to pack your things. 30 minutes? Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem. Maria's eyes filled with tears. You can't do this. I have nowhere to go. You should have thought about that before you slept with my husband. Victoria turned to the deputies. Officer Mitchell, Officer Hayes, please escort Mr. Sullivan and Miss Rodriguez off my property. Officer Mitchell stepped forward. Sir, ma'am, you need to come with us. Harry finally stood up. His legs were shaking. No, I'm not leaving. Sir, this is a lawful eviction. You need to leave. This is my house. Sir, I've lived here for 4 years. Victoria's voice cut through the room like a knife. And you contributed nothing. Harry spun around. His face was red. His eyes were wild. Nothing. I was your husband. You were a tenant. I loved you. Victoria didn't blink. You loved my money. Harry's mouth opened, then closed. He looked like he'd been hit. Officer Mitchell put a hand on Harry's shoulder. Sir, let's go. Harry shoved the officer's hand off. Don't touch me. Officer Hayes stepped forward. Sir, you can leave on your own, or we can remove you. Your choice. Harry looked around the room, at the deputies, at Margaret, at Victoria. His shoulders sagged. I need my stuff, he said quietly. Margaret checked her watch. You have 20 minutes. Harry didn't move. He just stood there, staring at Victoria. How can you be so cold? He whispered. Victoria met his eyes. I learned from the best. Harry turned and walked upstairs. Maria followed him. Victoria stayed downstairs with Margaret and the deputies. They waited in silence. 15 minutes later, Harry came down with 2 suitcases. Maria had 1 bag. Harry stopped at the bottom of the stairs. He looked at Victoria one last time. I hope you're happy, he said. Victoria didn't respond. Harry walked out the door. Maria followed. The deputies followed them. Victoria watched through the window as Harry and Maria stood on the sidewalk. Harry was on his phone, probably calling a friend, begging for a place to stay. The locksmith walked up to the door. He started changing the locks. Margaret stood next to Victoria. "How do you feel?" Victoria was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Empty." "That's normal." "Is it?" Margaret put a hand on Victoria's shoulder. "You did the right thing." Victoria wasn't sure about that, but she knew she'd done the only thing. 1 week later, Victoria was back in her house, alone. She'd had the sheets changed, the locks changed, the security code changed. She'd hired a new housekeeper, an older woman named Patricia who didn't smile much but did excellent work. Victoria liked her. Life was returning to normal. Work was busy. The Frankfurt deal was closing. The board was happy. Her company's stock was up 12%. Everything was fine, except it wasn't. Victoria sat in her living room on Friday night. She had a glass of wine. She was watching the city lights through the window. Her phone buzzed. A text from Margaret. "Just filed the final asset report with the court. Thought you'd want to see it." A document was attached. Victoria opened it. "Final asset disposition, Sullivan v. Chen Sullivan." She scrolled through the pages. Joint checking account, $127,340. Frozen and reallocated to Victoria Chen Sullivan as restitution for emotional damages under prenuptial clause 7b. Joint savings account, $43,892. Reallocated to Victoria Chen Sullivan. Mercedes GLE 450, 2023. Registered solely to Victoria Chen Sullivan. Repossessed from Harry Sullivan on date. Vehicle returned to primary residence. Porsche 911 Carrera, 2022. Registered solely to Victoria Chen Sullivan. Repossessed from Harry Sullivan on date. Vehicle returned to primary residence. Credit cards, Chase, Amex, Visa. All accounts under Victoria Chen Sullivan's corporate umbrella. All cards issued to Harry Sullivan, cancelled effective date. Health insurance, Harry Sullivan removed from Victoria Chen Sullivan's corporate policy, effective date. Phone plan, Harry Sullivan's line disconnected, effective date. Victoria kept scrolling. Residence, 1247 Oakmont Drive. Sole owner, Victoria Chen Sullivan. Harry Sullivan removed via emergency eviction order. 24-hour notice executed. Mr. Sullivan's personal belongings placed in storage facility. Storage fees due upon retrieval, $340 per month. Victoria paused. $340 a month. Harry didn't have $340. She kept reading. Credit report, Harry Sullivan. Current status, no active income, no active credit accounts, no current residence on file. Unemployment claim filed and denied. Reason, insufficient work history. Bank loan applications, denied, 3. Reason, no income verification, no collateral, no credit history. Housing applications, denied, 7. Reason, no income verification, no rental history, eviction on record. Victoria set the phone down. She picked up her wine glass. She took a sip. Harry was living with a friend now. Margaret's investigators had confirmed it. Some guy from college who felt sorry for him. The friend had a one-bedroom apartment. Harry was sleeping on the couch. Maria was back with her parents, in a different state. She'd blocked Harry's number. Victoria had heard through Margaret that Maria tried to file for unemployment. Denied. She'd tried to get a new housekeeping job. No one would hire her. Victoria's termination letter cited theft. That followed you. Maria's last Instagram post was 3 weeks ago. A photo of a half-empty room. The caption, "Starting over." Victoria didn't feel bad for her. She didn't feel good either. She just felt nothing. 2 weeks later, Victoria was at a gala, a charity event for children's hospitals. She'd donated $50,000. She was wearing a red dress. She looked stunning. She was talking to a board member when she saw him. Harry. He was across the room. He was wearing a cheap suit, the kind you buy at a department store when you can't afford anything better. He was with a woman. She looked kind, plain. She worked at the hospital. Victoria could tell by the name tag. Harry saw Victoria. Their eyes met. Victoria didn't look away. Harry's face went pale. He said something to the woman, then he walked over. Victoria's conversation partner excused himself. Harry stopped 3 feet away. "Victoria," he said. "Harry." They stood there, silent. Finally, Harry spoke. "You look good." "Thank you." "How have you been?" "Busy." Harry nodded. He looked down at his shoes. I got a job." "Congratulations." It's just retail, at a sporting goods store. But it's something." "That's good." Another silence. Harry looked up. "I'm sorry." Victoria didn't respond. "I mean it," Harry said. "I'm sorry for everything. I was wrong. About all of it." Victoria studied his face. He looked older, tired. There were lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. "I know," she said. Harry blinked. "You know? I know you're sorry." "Then why?" "Because sorry doesn't change anything." Harry's jaw tightened. "So that's it? You just destroy my life and move on?" "I didn't destroy your life, Harry. I removed you from mine." "What's the difference?" Victoria leaned in slightly. "The difference is you were never part of my life. You were a guest. And you overstayed your welcome." Harry's face went red. "I loved you. You loved what I gave you." "That's not true." Victoria's voice was quiet, sharp. "You never asked about my work. You never celebrated my wins. You never supported me when I was stressed. You took my money, my home, my time, and you gave me nothing in return except resentment." "I was there." "No, you were present. There's a difference." Harry looked like he'd been slapped. "So I'm just nothing to you?" Victoria was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You're a lesson." Harry's eyes filled with tears. He didn't let them fall. "I hope you find what you're looking for," he said. He turned and walked away. Victoria watched him leave. She felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, not relief, just nothing. She turned back to the gala. She finished her wine. She talked to donors. She smiled for photos. She wrote a check for another $25,000. She went home at midnight. She took off her heels. She poured herself a glass of water. She sat on her couch. Her house was quiet, clean, empty. But it was hers. 3 months later, Victoria was in her office. She was reviewing contracts for a new acquisition. Her company was expanding into Southeast Asia. It was a big deal, $100 million deal. Her assistant buzzed. "Mrs. Chen Sullivan, there's a package for you." "Bring it in." The assistant walked in with a small envelope. It was delivered by courier. Victoria took the envelope. It was plain, no return address. She opened it. Inside was a check for $10,000 and a note. "Victoria, I know this doesn't cover what I owe you. I know it doesn't fix anything. But I wanted you to know I'm trying. I got promoted. I'm managing the store now. It's not much, but it's honest work. I'm paying you back, even if it takes the rest of my life. I'm sorry. Harry." Victoria stared at the check. Then she picked up her phone. She called her accountant. "I need you to set up a fund," she said. "What kind of fund?" "A scholarship for single mothers going back to school. I want to donate $100,000 to start." "That's very generous. What should we call it?" Victoria was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "The Second Chance Fund." She hung up. She looked at Harry's check. Then she tore it up. She threw the pieces in the trash. Harry wanted to pay her back. But Victoria didn't need his money. She never had. What she needed was to remember her value, and to never let anyone make her forget it again. 6 months later, Victoria was at a coffee shop. She was reviewing files on her laptop. She had a meeting in an hour. A man sat down at the table next to her. He was reading a book. He had kind eyes. He glanced over. "Sorry, is this seat taken?" Victoria looked up. "No." He smiled. "Thanks." They sat in silence for a few minutes. Then he spoke again. "That's a serious-looking contract." Victoria glanced at him. "It's a serious deal." "What do you do?" "I run a company." "Impressive." He extended his hand. "Daniel." Victoria shook it. "Victoria." "Nice to meet you, Victoria." They talked for 20 minutes. He was an architect. He was working on a project downtown. He was funny, smart. He asked about her work. He listened when she answered. When Victoria left, Daniel asked for her number. She gave it to him. He texted her that night. It was really nice meeting you today. Would you like to get dinner sometime? Victoria stared at the text for a long time. Then she typed back, I'd like that. She hit send. Then she smiled. Not because she needed Daniel, but because she wanted him, and that made all the difference. Meanwhile, across town, Harry was closing up the store. He was locking the front door when his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Hi, it's Maria. I know you blocked me, but I wanted you to know. I'm pregnant. Harry stared at the text. His hands started shaking. He called the number. It went straight to voicemail. He called again. Voicemail. He sank down onto the curb outside the store. He put his head in his hands, and for the first time in 6 months, Harry Sullivan cried. Not because he was sad, but because he finally understood. Actions have consequences, choices have costs, and some debts can never be repaid. Harry Sullivan lost more than a house. He lost his credit. He lost his reputation. He lost his future. He lost his marriage to a woman who built empires. And he traded it for a woman who couldn't even keep a job. Maria Rodriguez lost more than employment. She lost her references. She lost her visa sponsorship. She lost her stability. She lost her dignity for a man who couldn't even keep her comfortable. Victoria Chen Sullivan lost a husband. But she gained something more valuable. She gained herself back. Harry sits in his studio apartment now. He works 50 hours a week. He makes $42,000 a year. He drives a used Honda Civic. He eats ramen 3 nights a week. He thinks about Victoria sometimes. He wonders if she thinks about him. She doesn't. Maria lives with her parents. She works at a diner. She's saving money for the baby. She doesn't talk to Harry anymore. She thinks about Victoria sometimes too. About the house, the clothes, the life she almost had. The life that was never hers to begin with. Victoria is in Tokyo. She's signing a $200 million deal. She's wearing a white suit. She's smiling for the cameras. She doesn't think about Harry. She thinks about the future. And for the first time in years, it looks bright. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely. Victoria learned that difference. Harry is learning it now. Some people think Victoria went too far. Some people think she was cruel. But cruelty would have been staying. Cruelty would have been pretending Harry's betrayal didn't matter. Cruelty would have been teaching him that disrespect has no consequences. Victoria didn't destroy Harry. She removed her protection. And without her, he had nothing left to stand on. That wasn't revenge. That was the truth. So here's the question. Was Victoria right to take everything, or should she have shown mercy? Drop your answer in the comments. Because the real question isn't whether Harry deserved it. The real question is, what would you have done?